Naruto's ending. Where do I begin? I think this might be one of the most debated topics in Naruto. I mean, it's been almost 11 years and we have people to this day making videos of it. In all seriousness, I think when it comes to what people mostly dislike, it's the fact that Madara was chosen over Kage. I mean, I rarely see anyone complain about that generational Naruto versus Sasuke fight, or even when Naruto and Sasuke held the headband and came to an understanding of what it means to be a shinobi. I want to address Madara in this video to see whether or not Kishimoto fumbled that last bit of the arc, so I would appreciate it if you could like and subscribe. When it comes to the whole shenanigans with Zetsu betraying Madara, the general dislike comes from two things: how unexpected the betrayal was and Madara losing as soon as he got the Rinne Sharingan. Just FYI, if y'all have different reasons as to why you dislike this or any other points, just comment them and I'll give my thoughts on them in another video. I can't agree with the first one, as the betrayal aspect had been built up. The first instance we get is when Obito is explaining Madara's backstory. Madara was born as someone strong, even for an Uchiha. After countless battles with the Senju, he took his brother's eyes in order to protect his clan. The Senju proposed a ceasefire and eventually the Uchihas agreed. The countless battles caused both sides to distaste conflict, everyone except Madara. His brother willingly gave up his eyes to protect his clan, and if they proposed a ceasefire, Madara's brother had sacrificed himself for nothing. Madara, in fear of the Uchiha being displaced from the power structure, advocated for a leader to be an Uchiha, but everyone shunned him, and this marked his first betrayal. This betrayal was sad. He was accused of having taken his brother's eyes for personal gain, but in all honesty, he was the most selfless of them all. The next betrayal was with Hashirama. If you remember, Hashirama was the one person Madara respected the most. Their story was one with a beautiful beginning. Madara was skipping stones, and eventually he had met Hashirama. You could tell initially they had that spark, friends or even brothers from another lifetime. Here we get introduced to an interesting plot point. Madara says, "I'm so sensitive that my pee stops flowing if someone steps behind me." At first glance, it seems like a comedic relief moment, but the next chapter solidifies its meaning. When Madara was peeing, Hashirama came from behind, and it did stop flowing. As Madara yells, "I told you not to stand behind me," Hashirama points this out as a weakness. Let's hold on to that idea for now. The best way I could put Hashirama was an idealist. He wanted to change this war-torn area. He challenged the social norms, what it meant to be a shinobi. The common belief was that a shinobi are those born into this world to fight and die in battle. That Kawarama, Hashirama's younger brother, died a full-fledged shinobi because he fought and died. So therefore, his 7-year-old brother was a shinobi. Hashirama knew the truth, that the adults were using children as sacrificial tools for war. The shinobi world is totally messed up, he proclaimed in front of his father. You could see how messed up the belief system was. To kill or be killed. There was so many grudges that you couldn't even tell someone else your family name. The tragedies kept piling up. Itama, another one of the younger children, were killed by 5 grown Uchiha men. The things that Hashirama was advocating against had become reality. Here we get to see both the similarities and differences of both Madara and Hashirama. Madara, just like Hashirama, wanted to find a way to end this conflict, but the differences were clear. Madara believed that it would be impossible. The only way to end conflict was through understanding. And in a world where you can't even share your family name, that was impossible. Something to note here is the idea of understanding, such a prominent theme in Naruto, but that's for another video. This is one of my favorite moments in Naruto. Hashirama and Madara were sitting at the top of a mountain, having their fun and normal conversations. Something else to note here is that Madara says, "I swear to protect my little brother no matter what." Hashirama tells Madara that we are going to build a settlement in this specific location, and they would create a school where kids can train and assign missions and place where kids don't have to be sent on harsh missions. An idealist, as I said before, but Madara agrees that this would be a good place to watch and protect his little brother. Hashirama made a resolution that day, that he would ensure whatever for the sake of his dream. That was the moment where Hashirama slowly redefined the meaning of a shinobi. After going home, he finds out his father found out that Madara was an Uchiha. He tells him to betray him purely because of his grudges, and we slowly see how everyone else had gotten trapped in the cycle of hatred. They meet each other one last time. Just as the first time they met, they started skipping rocks, but both their rocks told them to run away. It really was a cool moment to see how Hashirama and Madara's bond transcended the social norms or the cycle of hatred. Remember when I said take note of Madara's love for his brother? Because his brother's life was put on the line, Madara chose to prioritize him. He was the one who cut the bond with Hashirama, as he claims. Maybe it's impossible to reach those pipe dream of ours. Madara wasn't the same as Hashirama. He wasn't able to endure the hardships that came from wanting peace. After Izuna's death by the hand of Tobirama, Hashirama still chose to endure for his goal of peace. Madara told him to stab himself and he would trust him, and as he almost went to stab himself, Madara stopped. Thus began a peaceful era. This peace, however, was short-lived. Hashirama intended for Madara to take a position of Hokage, but ultimately Hashirama was chosen. Zetsu had engraved one god seeking stability split into light and shadow, and it is these two polar opposites together that give rise to all things in the universe. The way I interpreted this was that one god was Madara and Hashirama's ideal of creating a world without war, which is why they reference that this god is seeking stability. It says split into light and shadow. The light would be Hashirama and the shadow would be Madara. This is a parallel to Naruto and Sasuke, in which Naruto the light gets the sun seal and Sasuke the shadow gets the moon seal. The passage continues as follows, and it is these two polar opposites operating together, which references that if Hashirama and Madara work together. And it goes on to say that this gives rise to all things in the universe. This part is tricky though. It could mean two things. We see that Hashirama and Madara both interpreted this differently. Hashirama interpreted this as when two people of opposing selves work together, they can create something much greater. Similar to how Madara and him, although as Madara says it himself, they are like oil and water, created the leaf and an era of peace. On the contrary, Madara understood this as cooperation being another form of conflict. He viewed an alliance as a way to hide these grudges instead of eliminating them, which is why Madara asked Hashirama whether or not he would choose him over his brother. Let's be real for a second. Madara says it himself. The reason why they wanted the alliance was because they were tired of conflict, not because it erased the years of bloodshed. Madara's view made sense. This current system was a fragile one. The dispute for power made it even more clear for Madara how fragile the system was, where the quote-unquote alliance was another battlefield where power is the conflict. As Madara leaves, he says, "You of all people know that no one is capable of catching me from behind. Remember where Madara's weakness was? From the back. Let's keep that still in mind." The fight begins as Madara comes back to destroy the village, but we know how that went. Madara proclaiming his victory gets stabbed from behind. That was the day Hashirama made another resolution. He would ensure to watch over the things in the present, enduring, presenting the contrast of how Madara was fixated on the future. This was Madara's second betrayal. In Madara's view, he believed that the resolution Hashirama came to wasn't the resolution they had originally agreed on. In that sense, Madara was backstabbed by Hashirama. We see how this affects Madara's view on betrayal. He asks Obito why he was revived as an Edo, and he explains to Madara that Nagato had betrayed him. He says, quote unquote, "I can't depend on any of you." As if betrayals weren't anything of concern to him, he no longer cared. As we see when Obito betrays him, he doesn't seem to care at all. He does not place any more expectations on people, as those expectations eventually lead to betrayal. In the same conversation with Hashirama, he says, "Seeing the world as entertainment is more sound of an approach." He was beginning to grow more detached from the world itself. He gives up hope that peace can exist in the world itself, which leads to him getting fixated on Project Tsukuyomi. Before I explain the final betrayal by Zetsu, I think it's important to touch on the Infinite Tsukuyomi. The idea of the Infinite Tsukuyomi was to create a world without a cycle of hatred, a world where there would be no suffering. If we recall back, I was explaining Hashirama, I talked about how he slowly redefined the meaning of being a shinobi. The end conclusion was that being a shinobi was to endure, that you would continue persevering if it meant you could obtain your dreams. This part might feel disorganized, but I'm throwing some points at you, but it will make sense in the end. When Madara was explaining the Sage's 6 paths to Kakashi and the gang, he explains that chakra to be a power that links people. If we recall, Madara explaining the way to end conflict is for people to understand each other. He criticizes the Sage's 6 paths naivety, saying that a world where people understand each other would be impossible. Shinobis connected the mental energy and physical energy with themselves instead of each other. I mean, we see that Naruto understood this throughout his journey. Jiraiya taught him a valuable lesson, that when someone understands each other, empathy becomes second nature. Naruto was able to show empathy towards Haku, Gaara, and humanize them. Came to understand and empathize with Nagato and chose not to kill him. He was able to understand and see how Obito was struggling and held out a helping hand. Something important to know is that Naruto never in these instances forgive any of them, but rather forces them to realize their own contradictions. Going back to Madara, he explains the paradox of understanding, that when they manage to see and understand each other, they find out that it's impossible to understand each other. Chakra had created more conflict rather than less. It went from ninshu to ninjutsu. Chakra itself was a source of the cycle of hatred. Madara wanted to create a world free of suffering, a world that transcended the cycle of hatred. Happiness cannot exist without suffering. This is the concept of yin and yang. The opposing force cannot exist without each other. Think of it like this. If sadness didn't exist, how do we know when we are happy? Happiness would become a neutral state, or even without death, life would be meaningless, because what makes life precious is because it's so short, which connects to why Madara got betrayed by Zetsu. Zetsu. He believed Zetsu was an extension of his own will, and that Zetsu was himself. Madara began to no longer have any expectations from anyone, but the only one he could trust was himself, or Zetsu. So the irony plays into that Zetsu betrays him, that Madara betrayed himself. Without suffering, a shinobi wouldn't be able to endure. Madara was getting rid of the aspect of suffering that made him who he is today. Suffering is an essential part of life, and whether or not you accept it doesn't change the fact that everyone suffers, which is why I think it fully circled back to Madara getting betrayed by Zetsu as soon as he thought he won, similar to the situation with Hashirama. We see one final dialogue with Madara and Hashirama as they are laying there almost dead. Madara understands that both Hashirama and Madara were unable to fulfill their goals. Hashirama responds telling Madara that their goal isn't to actually fulfill it, but rather try their best and leave the rest for the younger generation. Hashirama was able to pass down his inherited will, the will of fire. Madara, on the other hand, wasn't able to move on. He became a ghost, the ghost of the Uchihas. I think this is something people don't understand about the Pain arc. Naruto's goal wasn't to actually give an answer for peace, but rather to never give up on finding one. Madara understands that his goal had been destroyed, but Hashirama's goal still lived on. This plays into more of a broader message that legacy isn't about leaving something on your own, but leaving something for others to continue. We see this with Minato leaving behind Naruto, or Jiraiya leaving it to Naruto, or Pain leaving it to Naruto, and so did Konan. A person does not truly die until their ideologies are dead themselves. The build-up for Madara's betrayal was there, but this doesn't mean that you will like it, which leads to the next point, which is the execution. I do agree that the betrayal aspect could have been made another time. For example, let's say Madara is about to get beat up by Naruto and Sasuke and then gets betrayed. But I also disagree it was bad. Madara being betrayed when he was at his highest was a good full circle, and I can't say it was bad. Obviously Naruto has his flaws, but I also think it's heavily misunderstood. I mean, Naruto's ending isn't even the Madara fight, which makes it 10 times more ironic. At the end of the day, it's just my interpretation. I tried to give the most evidence so it can make sense. So whether or not you change your mind on it, it's up to you. If y'all stayed until the end, like and subscribe. All I gotta say, I'll catch y'all another time.